Imagine this. You're on a routine hike and suddenly you find yourself lost, far from the familiar trails, deep in the wilderness. It's a scenario that could happen to anyone, a sudden twist of fate that catapults you into a world of uncertainty and potential danger. The wilderness, in its raw, untamed beauty, can be as unpredictable as it is breathtaking. It's a world that doesn't bend to our conveniences, a world that demands respect and preparedness. Being equipped with the right knowledge and skills becomes your lifeline. It's about understanding your environment, knowing how to use what's around you, and most importantly, keeping a clear, calm mind. It's not just about surviving, but about adapting, thriving even, in a situation far removed from our everyday life. In such a situation, survival skills can be the difference between life and death. So, how does one survive in the wilderness? First things first, you need a shelter to protect yourself from the elements. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty. Building a shelter may seem like a daunting task, but with the right know-how, it's absolutely doable. Step 1, pick a location. Your shelter's location is paramount. You want to look for an area that is relatively flat, away from falling rocks or branches, and if possible, near a water source. But be mindful not to place it too close to stagnant water to avoid mosquitoes and other insects. Next, gather your materials. Nature is bountiful and provides us with everything we need to construct a basic shelter. Look for sturdy branches to serve as the framework of your shelter. Smaller branches, leaves, and moss can be used for insulation and to waterproof your shelter. The goal is to create a structure that can protect you from wind, rain, and cold. To begin building, lean your sturdy branches against a tree trunk or a fallen log to create a wedge-shaped structure. This is the basic structure of what is often called a lean-to shelter. The wider end of the wedge should face the direction opposite to prevailing winds for optimal protection. Now, it's time to insulate. Weave smaller branches into the framework and pile on leaves and moss. These materials act as a barrier against the elements, especially cold and dampness. Be generous with your insulation. The more you have, the warmer and drier you'll be. Consider adding a door to your shelter. A simple solution is to pile leaves or branches at the entrance, which you can move aside when you need to get in or out. The process of building a shelter is not merely a test of physical strength, but also one of resourcefulness and adaptability. With every branch you gather, every leaf you pile, you're not just building a shelter, you're building survival skills. Lastly, and most importantly, always maintain a positive mindset. Survival is as much a mental game as it is a physical one. Remember, a well-built shelter can keep you warm, dry, and safe from wildlife. Now that you have a shelter, the next step is to build a fire. Lighting a fire is a skill that's both simple and complex. It's not just about striking a match or flicking a lighter. In the wilderness, those luxuries may not be available, so we'll break it down step by step. First, you need to gather your materials. Look for dry leaves, pine needles, or grass. These will serve as your tinder, the stuff that catches fire quickly. Next, you need kindling. Small sticks or twigs, again, make sure they're dry. Lastly, gather larger logs or branches for fuel. These will keep the fire burning. Now let's talk about arranging these materials. You've probably seen the classic log cabin or teepee fire structures. They're popular for a reason. The log cabin structure is stable and burns long and steady. The teepee, on the other hand, burns hot and fast, great for cooking. Here's how to build a log cabin fire. Start by laying your tinder in the middle of your fire pit. Then, place kindling in a square formation around the tinder, stacking them like you're building a tiny log cabin. Leave an opening in the structure to light the tinder. For the teepee fire, place your tinder in the center of your fire pit. Arrange your kindling in a teepee shape over the tinder. Be sure to leave a gap to light the tinder. Once the kindling catches fire, add the larger logs, maintaining the teepee structure. Now, to light the fire. If you have a fire starter, great. If not, you can use the hand drill or fire plow methods. These involve creating friction to generate heat and ignite the tinder. Remember, it's not about speed, but consistent pressure and patience. Fire is a crucial survival tool. It provides warmth, a way to cook food, and a source of light. Plus, a well-maintained fire can act as a distress signal, potentially leading rescuers to your location. A fire not only keeps you warm and cooks your food but also signals for help if you're lost. With shelter and fire sorted, it's time to think about food. In the wilderness, finding food is a combination of knowledge, skill, and a bit of luck. The first step is to understand that the forest is a living pantry, teeming with potential meals. But not everything is up for grabs. The key is knowing what's safe to eat and what's not. Let's start with something relatively simple: trapping small game. Snares are a handy tool for this. A snare is a looped trap that tightens around an animal as it passes through. You can make one using a strong, thin piece of wire or cord. Place it on a well-used trail, preferably where the path narrows. Always remember, patience is your best companion here. But what if trapping isn't your style? Well, there's always fishing. If you're near a body of water, fishing can provide a steady source of protein. You can fashion a spear from a sturdy branch or even weave together a rudimentary net. Moving on from hunting, let's discuss gathering. The wild is full of edible plants, but it's crucial to know which ones are safe. Some plants may look harmless but are actually toxic. Others might be unpalatable but nutritious. Familiarize yourself with local flora before you start munching on leaves. Berries are often a safe bet, but not always. A good rule of thumb is to avoid white and yellow berries as many are poisonous. Blue and black berries are usually safe, but again it's essential to know your local plants. Mushrooms are another food source you might encounter, but they come with a big warning label. Many mushrooms are toxic, and some are deadly. Unless you're an expert, it's best to steer clear of them. Insects may not be to everyone's taste, but they are a valuable source of protein. Grubs, beetles, and even ants can provide necessary nutrients. Knowing how to procure food in the wild can keep you nourished and increase your chances of survival. Surviving in the wilderness isn't just about knowing these skills, it's about practicing them. It's about honing your instincts, developing your abilities, and becoming comfortable with the unfamiliar. It's about taking what you've learned about creating a shelter, lighting a fire, and hunting, and applying it in real-life scenarios. But remember, don't just dive headfirst into the deep end. Practice these skills in a safe and controlled environment first. Start with your backyard or a local park. Try building a shelter with what you find around you. See if you can light a fire using only natural resources. Practice your hunting skills with a game of tracking. Preparation is key in survival. The more you practice these skills, the more they'll become second nature, and the more prepared you'll be for any situation that comes your way. So go out there, practice these skills, and remember, the more you know, the better your chances of survival.